Is Marcus and Terry with you today on this wonderful cold Florida and California Thursday morning. So, if you guys can hear us okay, let us know. What we're going to be doing today is we are going to go through and talk about a plan to get sober. What does a plan look like? What does it look like when you're trying to get sober? If you're out there and you've been drinking for a long time and you don't know what to do, and you're like, okay, well, maybe I could quit for a week or 2 weeks or maybe even 3 weeks or maybe a couple of months, but I always end up drunk again. And it's not
Yeah.
fun and it doesn't work. And my life sucks when I drink. And maybe that's how you feel. And if that's how you feel, let us know. And if you've been struggling with how to get sober, let us know as well. Because what we're going to do is we're going to talk to you about this and show you the plan that we've done. Now, before we dive into this, you got to know that me and Terry are not doctors. We're not super fancy pants PhD people. We didn't read a ton of books. Well, maybe a good amount, but not a ton. And just reading books doesn't make you smart. I mean, it makes you learn things, but it doesn't make you smart. So we're not doctors. We don't really know what's going on with the physical aspect. So if you're dealing with detox, definitely go to a doctor, right? This stuff can be deadly. Terry knows all too well how deadly it can be. His alcoholism, I think, landed you in like a major seizure issue, which was not good.
Oh
And
yeah.
we don't want that to happen to anyone else that's here. We
Yep.
want to make sure that you get the help you need. With that said, what we're going to do in this call is we're going to give you a plan for how to stay sober once you get all the detox stuff figured out, once you go to your doctor and everything like that. So, Terry, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I don't see the feed coming on
Oh,
though.
okay. Maybe refresh it. Should
Okay.
be working.
Yeah. All righty. I just want to make
Okay.
sure we're good.
Cool. And if you guys
Nope.
could give us a little sound check, let us know how it's going. I'm testing a new microphone, and we're hoping to not get feedback. That's the
Yeah.
goal here, or echoey.
I'm still not seeing the feed. But anyways, I'm doing well, everybody. And
Cool.
welcome. Good to see y'all. Good to see Mrs. B. That's the only comment I got so far here. Maybe my computer's slow or I don't know what's going on. Anyways,
Okay, cool. Maybe press play on the feed. That might be the issue. I'm not quite sure, but that could be it.
no.
So who knows? But at any rate, let's go ahead and dive in and talk
Yeah.
about the issues that you guys are interested in, which is a plan to stay sober. What does that look like? How do you stop the cravings? How do you stop the initial mindset craziness? How do you stop wanting alcohol for everything? And one of the things we got to look at here is a lot of us have drank for many years. I drank for many years, probably about 10 years before I got sober. And while I didn't drink alcoholically the entire 10 years, what I was doing is I was training my brain that alcohol was a solution for everything. Get in a fight with the wife, hey, there's alcohol. Something happened at work, hey, there's alcohol. Someone pisses you off in traffic, hey, there's alcohol. Hopefully not while you're in traffic, shouldn't be drinking and driving. But alcohol was a go to for everything. And what happened was I programmed my brain to say alcohol is the solution. Now, along the way, we could look at my life as well and say, well, when Marcus was young, he didn't really develop good coping skills. Like, he didn't know what to do when people yelled at him, he didn't know what to do when things went bad. He didn't know how to do this thing called adulting, right? He didn't know how to be an adult in society and in life. So what I did is I developed a coping mechanism for this crazy life that I had made called drinking. And drinking was my coping mechanism. And what happened was from the time I was about 22 years old or 19 years old when I first started kind of drinking to help me with stuff, right? It was like self-medicating, as they call it. Is all my ideas and all my ability to grow and develop coping mechanisms and develop ways to live in the world were stopped, right? And what happens is it stops you right where you're at. So when I stopped drinking, I woke up and I found myself in a mental hospital and in rehab, and I was still that 19-year-old kid who had barely any coping skills because I never developed any. I was just basically going through saying, let's numb it, let's numb it, let's numb it. And I find that a lot of alcoholics are afraid to feel things. And so what we're going to do today is talk to you about plans. Like, what are you going to set in place? What are you going to do? Because they always say that knowledge gives you options, right? We give you options on this channel. Watching a video is good, it's great, wonderful. That's giving you options. But what you do is going to keep you sober, right?
Yeah.
What are you doing that's going to keep you sober? So, Terry, if you could go through, what was it like when you drank, and what were the coping skills like, and what was it like after when, as I like to say, you kind of had to learn to live again?
Well, I tell you, when I was drinking, there were virtually no coping skills. My coping skills were just consistent of, kind of what you just said.
Hmm.
Anytime there was a bad situation, a good situation, it didn't matter. It was alcohol was the go-to answer,
Hmm.
and that would make me feel good. And it would make, as time went on, that good feeling get would last for less and less time,
Hmm.
and I'd be satisfied for less and less time, and eventually I was just chasing that feeling, trying to get it again, and you know, the, I'd drink and try to cope with the situation, and it would work for a couple of minutes, and that's about it, and then drink more and drink into oblivion.
Hmm.
And then the problem with that was when I was drinking, um, to push these problems away, the problems would be there the next day. A lot of times the problems would be worse because I didn't take care of what I was supposed to take care of.
Hmm.
So when I was drinking, I wasn't even capable of taking care of these things that would come up in life. And emotionally, everything was just pushed down. Wake up the next day, feel like crap because of the hangover.
Hmm.
And then the anxiety sets in with all the stuff I didn't get done. It was just this endless roller coaster, and it just built and built and built. And it was a horrible feeling. And, after getting sober, I kind of lost a lot of stuff in my life. I kind of had a blank slate, really.
Hmm.
I still had some issues that I had to deal with, but I didn't have to deal with them like right away. And I started to talk to other people, to other sober alcoholics. They started to help me
Hmm.
um, develop some life skills and just some really simple life skills like gratitude. Trying to be thankful for what little I had left, and just even as simple as having my life, that just being grateful for that.
Hmm.
Other things that I started to develop was three keys to my sobriety, which was the honesty. I was going to be honest with everybody, honest with myself. I had this blank slate, so it was kind of easier to be honest, although it's a struggle on a daily basis
Hmm.
to just continue to be honest. But the other thing was be willing to do what I needed to do to get sober and stay sober, even if I didn't necessarily agree with what somebody was telling me to do. I'd have to look at the fact that, hey, this guy's been sober for whatever months, whatever years.
Hmm.
They've been sober for a long time, so something's got to be working. I've heard their story. They were like me or worse,
Hmm.
and that was another key, was just the honesty and the willingness and just being open-minded to what other people were doing, being open-minded to their suggestions as to what I should do.
Hmm.
And just that was another important thing. And one more thing that I added that's kind of helps as well is just not stressing over it. Don't over not overthinking what I was doing to
Hmm.
work on my sobriety. Not think about why or what if. Just get rid of those and just what should I do the next minute? What
Yeah.
do I need to be doing to work on my sobriety? And all those things are the keys for me. And I needed a lot of help. The title is how to drink alcohol on your own for today's webinar, and I had a lot of help, so I didn't quit drinking on my own, but at the same time, I had to make these decisions. My alcoholism and staying sober is my responsibility. If
Hmm.
I don't do the actions that I need to do, it's not going to work. It doesn't matter what other people tell me, no matter how close they are, a judge, my wife, whatever. I know a lot of people that got into like the rooms AA ordered by the courts or whatever, or they had to go to AA, otherwise their family was going to leave them or kick them out of the house, and that was a start for them. A lot of them don't stay sober. A lot of them stay sober because they decided to take responsibility for their sobriety themselves. So
Absolutely.
it is a lot of ourselves,
Yeah, and it's interesting because when you look at the whole idea of quitting drinking on your own, you have a lot of people out there that Maybe they can't go to rehab. Maybe they don't have the funds to. Maybe they don't have the time to. Maybe they're scared to. And maybe for some reason they just don't know where to get the help that they need. And what we want to do today is show you guys the plan of how to go forward. Like, what's it going to look like for you? Like Jennifer said, she just got a DUI and it's hard right now. And
Yeah.
we got to look at that and say, okay, we're out there drinking and doing things that we wouldn't normally do that are screwing up our life in crazy ways. And we can't stop. And a lot of people don't get this. They don't understand what it's like to not be able to quit something, right? I remember people in my family, oh, just put the bottle down, man. It's pretty easy. You just put it down and don't pick it back up. And I'm like, yeah, but is that freaking easy? I don't think we'd have alcoholism. But what they don't realize is that our mind and our soul and our body and every part of our being is hijacked by alcohol. And now this alcohol is saying, hey, the only thing that's going to help you is more alcohol. And when you go out there and you get a DUI or something in your life happens, what do? You go drink over it because you don't know what to do. And this goes back to the coping mechanisms. And I found that there were several things in my life that really needed to be addressed and looked at. One was my past stories. Right? What was the past stories that I told myself about my life? And oftentimes in life, we have this backpack that we carry around with all these stories, and it weights us down and it says, hey, you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. No one's going to like you. You're a failure. You were abused because you're worthless. And we have all these stories that we tell ourselves, and we bring them into our life, and they affect us. And sometimes those stories get so loud in the brain that we have no choice but to drink them away because we haven't found a better solution. And that's what alcoholism is about. And that's what sobriety is about, is finding a better solution. And what I want to offer you guys today is a solution that works. So the first thing is your past stories, right? How many of you guys have those past stories and you're like, yeah, those haunt me. They talk to me all the time. I don't like those. Maybe you also have something like the current story. What is the current thing you tell yourself about what life is, right? Are you saying, oh, well, I suck because I'm not a millionaire on a mountain. I suck because I'm an alcoholic, or I don't want to admit I'm an alcoholic because that makes me like the dude who's in the gutter. And chances are you are like the dude who's in the gutter. You just might not be in the gutter. The only difference between you and him is location. Like, that's the only difference. And we look at it and we're like, okay, well, what is it I'm telling myself about my life currently? This is our life philosophy. Now, are you the person who's saying, hey, everything's against me? Like, I know when I was drinking, if I had gotten a DUI, I would have said, well, everything's against me. The cop was against me. I mean, I should be able to drive. He doesn't know that I can have a lot to drink and I can still drive, right? I really can't. No one should drive after having anything to drink. We got Ubers that'll pick you up at like a freaking stop wherever you want, right? So there's no reason to. But again, I thought my life philosophy was the world's against me. The taxes are against me. The money's against me. My business is against me. Everyone's against me. Even my family was against me. And I carried that around, and that was my life philosophy, and that's how I live life. And now, being sober, I've developed a new life philosophy. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to take a look at what you currently believe. And you could say, well, I believe in God, or I believe in church or whatever. But a lot of people believe in things that their actions don't reflect and their core values don't reflect. Like, if I say I believe in being nice to people and I'm a total ass, I really don't believe it, right? I just don't really believe it. I say I believe it. I want to believe it, but I don't really. If I say, life is about all of us being united, or life is about being able to focus, or life is about this, or life's about that, and I'm not living that way, then I don't really believe it. So we need to look at our core philosophy, and we need to start to challenge it. One of the things that has kept me sober for 5.5 years is the ability to challenge my life philosophy. When I stopped drinking, or when I was drinking, I used to be a preacher. I had very staunch religious views that were kind of going away. I was kind of keeping on to them, but kind of going away, but they were always in the back of my mind. And I never sat down and said, well, what do I believe? What do I really want to think? Right? I was just taking what people put on me. Oh, well, this is this, this is this. I grew up with this, so I must be this. Instead of looking at it and saying, well, what do I want to believe? What is it that I want to believe? Well, I first and foremost want to believe that drinking is not good for me. Drinking does not help. All right, we think it does, but then we come home with, cops and we come home with fights with spouses, and we come home with bones broken, right? I broke one of my bones when I was drinking. We come home after falling on our head in Vegas. That actually happened. And we come home wondering what the hell we did. And we think that this is a good way to cope because it's the only way we know.
Right.
And so we need to challenge that and say, well, this isn't really the best way to cope. How many of you guys right now, watching this, you're like, yeah, alcohol is my only way to cope, but I know it's not the best way. I just haven't found a better way. And what we want to do is we want to talk to you about a better way. For me, I have found a better way by really looking at my mind, because I was in a battle with my mind to no end, right? I was in a battle. I used to fight my mind. It was like a boxing match in my brain of shut the hell up. No, I need to do this. Shut the hell up. No, you need to do that. There was Bible verses in there. There was other stuff in there. There was song lyrics. There was mom. There was dad. There was society. And it was like a fucking boxing match in the brain. And I didn't know how to get rid of this. And I was like, oh my God, I'm a victim of my brain. Another thing to be a victim of, right? And so I was a victim of the brain, and I was like, how do I get out of this? How does that happen? How the hell do we do this? And then I listened to a talk that kind of spun me out, and I was like, okay, this guy's either fucking crazy or totally brilliant. And it's probably a little bit of both, right? And this guy was like, well, why don't you go find your mind? And I was like, okay, well, what the hell is my mind? Well, I used to think that my mind was my thoughts. That's what it is. My mind is my thoughts. But then I learned the mind is what the brain does, right? That's what it's doing. Your thoughts are what it's doing. They're not the sum of it. Like if we took all your thoughts and laid them out and we were like, this is Terry, here he is. That's not Terry. Terry's so much more than just thoughts. Thoughts are nothing more than chemical impulses in the brain that are conditioned by things in society. Your brain is hardwired to protect yourself. And so we look at it and we're like, well, for a kid like me who had an abusive step-parent, I am always on the lookout for people that mimic that. And so I might be sitting there one day and some guy makes a little face and I'm like, oh shit, I better run. And I start to get anxiety and I don't even think about it because my brain just goes, compute, compute. It's like Terminator where the guy's walking through and he's looking at stuff and it's just reading out everything, but he's not consciously thinking it, right? And so that's what happens, and we have to look at that and we have to separate from our brain and from our thoughts and be like, well, that's not exactly what's going on here, right? Because there's a different level. Now, when you look at it, how many of you guys, when you drink alcohol, you go to like base desire level? You're like, I want food, I want to get in a fight, and I want physical attention, right? That's what we want. We're like, all right, there we go. And you're basically brought to like this mammal status, and you don't even remember, and you're like, what the hell did the bear do last night? I don't know. The bear, he comes out when I drink and he goes and fucks shit up. And then I wake up and I got to deal with whatever the hell the bear did, right? And what happens is you're brought down to a base level. All right. Now in consciousness, you have different levels and you could be at a base level. All right. I guarantee that if everyone on this call was starving hungry and had nothing to eat, you would be thinking differently about everything I said. You'd be thinking differently about everything else that went on in your life because your brain would be hijacked with the need to eat, right? It'd bring you to base level. I'm going to go eat. I'll go eat something off the tree. I'll go, kill something in the wilderness to eat. I'll get out of the trash can. We see people in Venezuela digging in trash cans because they have nothing to eat. And you might say, well, Marcus, I sit here in America with my fancy seat and I eat Terry's delicious cooking because Terry's a chef. I would never go to the trash can. But the fact of the matter is you would.
Yeah.
Why? Because that situation and the feelings of hunger will overtake you in a way that you can't even imagine. You can't even imagine it. Same thing happens with alcohol. And so we look at this and we're like, what's the better way? Well, the better way is to elevate your consciousness and be aware of other things that are going on. Be aware that life's not just about you. I used to think that I sat here, right? And the world spun around me. And it's spinning around me and it's doing all this shit to me. And then when I elevated my consciousness, when I got sober, I was like, wait a minute. There's 8 billion people on this world. Things happen to everyone. Who's to say that I deserve something? Who's to say I deserve a raise? Why do I deserve a car? There's some kid that's like, his village is being bombed right now as we speak. Like right now, right? You're like, oh, Marcus, you won't understand my childhood. My tricycle was taken away when I was 5. And those are valid. Those do hurt. They are painful. But when you pan out and you put it in perspective and you say, I'm one of 8 billion people, that some shitty things happened to. Some had shittier, some had better. I'm just one of 8 billion, and it's not personal to me. And when I look at that and I change the way I think, everything starts to change. What are your thoughts on all that, Terry?
That's a lot to give thoughts about, man.
It
Uh,
is.
yeah, that's what you're talking about is pretty much the way I try to live my life now, and that's just I am one of 8 billion people. I'm just here, and a lot of it goes down to just me being grateful for being here and being part of life. And
Mm-hmm.
when I look at it as I'm just part of here, that helps me get in that mindset of that maybe helping other people is going to help me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still selfish. I want my life to be comfortable and I want things to go well. Of course, I want to be rich, but that's not my priority anymore. My priority is to be happy and serene and just enjoy life. And that's when I'm sitting there trying to be the center of everything, it's a fight because other people they don't yeah they care somewhat. Friends care about you and even strangers care, but when it comes down to it, they care about themselves more. And it's super important that I try not to stay, self-absorbed and try to have this massive ego, and it just doesn't help me. And trying to keep myself out of myself, that's what works the best. You know, I continue to go back to gratitude, and it's huge. Jennifer, you got that DUI, and I got one too, and I drank and drove, and I'm actually grateful that I got it. It still sucks. My insurance rates are still high, but if I didn't get that DUI, maybe I would have hurt somebody, and that's important. That's huge that I didn't hurt somebody. There's people that I know that are in prison because they hurt people, and all they did was get behind a wheel and drive drunk. So, nobody ever do that. Don't do it. And what that did do, it didn't get me to quit drinking right away, but it was part of my path. And that's it. It was probably the first step of my path to sobriety, and it was big. It's funny. If I ever saw that cop, I don't know if I'd recognize him because I was pretty hammered, but I'd thank him. You know,
Yeah.
and because I was saying, can't you just let me drive home? I'm only 2 miles from home. Nope, I can't. You're
Mhm.
not going home. Okay, you know, and that's huge.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
uh,
Um,
Jennifer's talking about having the battle in my head bad. That's another thing you mentioned, and yeah, that's the thoughts of something like that happening to you. It just spins around and around, and I got through it. I lost my license for a while, and I had to take these steps, and what the courts told me to do, and all I did was I did it. It was a pain in the ass. I hated every minute of it, but I did it, and I got through it. And it's what you have to do in sobriety. It's what we have to do through life to live to get to that serene point. Sometimes it doesn't happen right away. And then on top of all those court things and everything, probably have family issues or friend issues or work issues. I'd had all that stuff, and it all came crashing down on me because I was still drinking. It all caught up to me, but I was able to get through
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Beth says, I always have the battle in my head too. And I think a lot of us do have that battle. And I think it's really interesting to ask yourself who's battling? Who is
Right.
it? Like Marcus is in there somewhere, I think. But who else? Like who's kicking my ass? Like, And I think what you'll find is that it's just thoughts that you are uncomfortable with, that you don't want to have, that you're giving too much weight to. Because the way that it works is our mind is like a river, right? You got this river, and this river's going along, and there's all these different thoughts in it. Now, if I go to college and I start to study plants, right? Let's say I become a plant guy. What happens is my river starts to get more polluted with thoughts of plants. And instead of just going out and being like, hey, check out those plants, whatever, I'm going to start to be like, hey, that's a nimbus tree or whatever, right? And I'm going to start to look at all these things in a different way, and I'm going to start to create distinctions. And what happens is our mind creates distinctions. And so if you have someone out there that's like, a dog breeder, he's going to go out there and he'll be like, hey, you know what? You see that little spot on that 50th dog over there? That means he's this kind of breed. Now you look at him and you're like, it's a bunch of freaking dogs, man. It's just dogs, the fat one, skinny one, ugly one, whatever. It's a bunch of dogs. And you look at it. Now to the guy who makes the distinctions, he's changing everything and he's seeing the world in a different way. Now the same thing happens in our life and in our mind where we make distinctions based on certain things. We make judgments based on thoughts and we become experts of what a thought means. I was an expert in this thought. Like I'd be sitting in church and I have this crazy thought that, I guess it was a sin or whatever. It's like, I thought this thing, it must be a sin. And then I learned that thoughts just happen. They're chemical impulses in the brain from your brain constantly getting millions of pieces of data input every second. Every single millisecond, there are millions of data points. Right now, if you pay attention to them, watch this, right? I want you to watch the screen, unless you're driving, and I want you to pay attention to what's going on around you, right? So here you are, you're watching Terry, you're watching me, and I see over here there's a screen, I see the camera here, I got a light that's blinding me here, light over here, there's a fan over here, and there's all these things going on around me. And I want you to focus on one thing that's around you, and I want you to focus on it big, right? So just focus on it big. For me, I'm going to choose this fancy little Mr. Toad ashtray, right? And I'm going to focus on that. And what you're going to notice is that your mind changes and all the stuff drops away, and now you're focused on the little frog on the ashtray or whatever it is you chose to focus on. Now, this is the idea that the mind is like a lens. Your mind is like a lens, and you get what you focus on. So you got the river of thoughts going through. Whatever happens in your day is going to happen. Maybe that day you talk to the person who abused you, or you talk to your mom who was there when you got abused, or your dad, or whoever it is, right? And so what happens is your brain gets on hyper alert, even though you're not thinking about it. You're talking about, how you're not going to see mom for Christmas because whatever, right? And in the back of your brain, you're going, mom equals stepdad equals abuse equals jerk equals run and hide. And all of a sudden, you're like, I'm freaking anxious and I'm thinking about this stuff all the time. Why? And you have a fight with yourself over why you think about it, because you're not realizing that we are chemical beings and there's chemical impulses in the brain, and that triggered something. And now you're thinking about it all the time. Much in the same way, if you are going to get a certain car, let's say you're going to buy a red car, right? You decide in your mind, I'm going to get a red car. Red cars are beautiful. All of a sudden, you drive around and you're like, where did all these freaking red cars come from? Did everyone go buy a red car the minute I decided to get a red? What is going on? It's a conspiracy. Let's check YouTube for conspiracy videos about red cars. And what happened there? Was there more red cars? No. Your consciousness was just tuned into them. Yep. Is there more thoughts? Is there more battle in your brain about that argument or about the abuse that happened when you were younger? No. Something just triggered it, and now there's more of them in the river. And if you sit back instead of diving in the river and being like, fuck you, thoughts, get away, thoughts. Oh, I'm going to try to swim and I'm going to try to fight these thoughts. Instead of doing that, what if you just get out of the river? You're like, of course these thoughts are going to go. This is what happens. Chemical impulses in the brain. Of course I'm going to think about that. I talked to mom last night. Of course I'm going to think about the red cars. I decided to get one. And we look at it and we're like, I no longer have to be in the river fighting because the river's cold and it's not fun. And when you get in that river and you fight thoughts, guess what? How many of you guys ever fought a thought and made it go away? Anyone? I know I haven't. I fight thoughts and they kick the living shit out of me.
Yep.
They kick the living shit out of me. And the other day, I wrote one of the chapters of the book that's going to be coming out, hopefully at the first of the year, where I had an issue. 5.5 years sober. I'm sitting out on my patio. I get an issue that triggers me. It throws me for a loop. I'm sitting there. I'm in a loop. I'm chain smoking cigars like they're going out of style. And I'm like, how the hell do I get this out of my brain? And I was sitting there for like an hour and a half stewing about this. I couldn't sleep, couldn't do anything. It was just spiraling out of control. And all of a sudden I tell myself, I said, well, Marcus, all these thoughts in your head, what are they? Well, they're words. Okay, well, did you invent the English language? No. So they're not really even your words. They're just words. Okay, got it. And then I said, well, what if I replaced all this chatter in the brain about what's going on with the word words? So instead of going, oh, God damn it, that thing that happened before, this person's coming at me. What about this? Oh, I feel, you know what? I was wronged. You don't understand. Instead of doing that, I just went words, 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 words. And when the thought came up, I said words, 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 because that's all they are is words. And guess what? All the fighting in the world got me in an hour and a half, and I almost wanted to drink over it. 5.5 years sober, I get these thoughts. I almost wanted to drink over it. And I might have if I didn't have that tool, or I just like words. That's all they are, words, words, words. And it came in and it had, what about this, Marcus? Words. Yeah, what about words? Hey, look, the phone's over there, Marcus. Remember, you talked to her? Mm-hmm. Remember that? Yeah. Yeah, you should get even. Words, 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 words. And I realized that it's all just words and it's all just chatter in the brain. And it doesn't even matter because right now where I sit, I'm going to be okay and I don't need to drink. And when we do that, we realize we don't have to own our mind. We don't have to control our thoughts. You know, there's self-help that says control your thoughts. There's Bible verses that say take every thought captive. What if thoughts are meaningless? Right? And I think this is why we get in a lot of trouble because people take their thoughts seriously and they say, well, you know, I thought about, pushing someone out of my way. That must mean I'm a dick. No, it's just chemical. Did you do it? No, I didn't push her out of the way. Well, then, there's nothing to worry about. Well, I thought about that. Well, did you do it? No, you're probably okay. Oh, Marcus, I've been sober for years and I thought about drinking. Did you drink? No. Then you're probably okay. Just thoughts. We don't have to battle them anymore. We can sit back and watch that river and not care. So
I hear a lot of recovering alcoholics talk about they were going through the store and then there was their alcohol on the shelf, or they were went to a friend's house and there was their brand of wine that they were pouring, but they couldn't have any and they just focused on it. Or, me too. I do the same thing. I used to, our bread aisle at our supermarket is right across from where the vodka that I drank was. And I knew the price of the vodka long after I stopped drinking. I'd look at it, is it still the same price or did it go up? And I was just I'd put so much thought into that. And it's just what you were saying, Marcus. It's been ingrained in our heads, the drinking for so long. The thought's going to be there, but you don't have to take it captive. And that's what I learned to do is just not worry about it. Yeah, okay, I notice alcohol. I notice when somebody's sneaking a drink. I notice if somebody smells like alcohol and maybe they're in a situation where they probably shouldn't be drinking or something like that. I notice these things because I was there and it was part of my life. It was my life for so long. And I just choose not to, I don't worry about it. That's a difficult thing to let go of when you just notice these things and then you're like, is this going to make me drink? No, it doesn't have to. Absolutely not. And same thing, I'll have that occasional fleeting thought after 5 years. It'll happen, but it's not going to act on it. Not going to pick up the drink. Why would I? I've got so much now, and I see it firsthand almost every day. People that have picked up their drink after years of sobriety, and it ain't pretty every time. I've never seen it go well. So, yeah. My buddy, he's back in the hospital again, going through detox. He's in a bad way. So it's a difficult thing, man.
it is. And, we got to really look at it and really focus on what it's gonna look like in our life. Like, what it's going to look like. What are you going to do instead of going to the bar? What are you going to do instead of drinking? What are you going to tell yourself? Like, a lot of people, they come and they're like, oh man, I had so many years and then I relapsed. Okay, and so you got a bunch of years, you relapsed for a short period of time, and now you're back. Oh, that means I'm a failure. Maybe not. Maybe it just means you had a bunch of sober days and a couple of not. Yeah. And now it's time to have a bunch of sober days again. And maybe look at it and say, well, what was it that triggered my relapse? What was it that made me go back? What was it that finally broke the camel's back and, made me go out? And you look at it and you say, well, if I could figure these out, then I could start to live a sober life because I'm not going to worry about all these other things because now I can look at it objectively. And I think so many times we assign this meaning to these things and we focus on meaning. Oh, this means that. Terry said this, therefore it means that. Well, maybe, maybe not. Marcus said this, therefore it means that. Maybe, maybe not. And we got to really take charge and focus on what we want to believe, how we want to feel. Because as alcoholics, all we really want to do is feel better. That's it. Like, I sit here and I have a fight with my brain and I feel like shit. I don't want to feel like shit. And drinking made me feel like not shit for like 10 minutes, and then I felt even shittier. And for some reason, my brain was like, yeah, those 10 minutes of pleasure are worth all this shit. And it really wasn't. And I had to look at that, and I had to focus and be like, hey, you know what? There's a better way. And now I've found that there's better ways to feel even better, longer. Right? I got to wake up every day, and my worst day sober is better than my best day drinking. Right? And we think about that, and it's like, well, Marcus, you don't understand. I don't know how to shut the thoughts off. Well, who turned them on? Right? Who says you have to listen? Who says it has to matter? Who says you have to dwell on things? Right? Your mind is like a lens. Pick something else to dwell on. And it's interesting because we look at the power of the brain, and it's like if you're in the middle of a thought battle in your head, and you're going round and round and everything sucks, and all of a sudden, like, a police officer shows up at your house, you're not going to be thinking about whatever you were battling in your head. Guarantee it. It's going to change right away, right? Or maybe someone comes up and yells at you, right? You're not going to think about that stuff anymore. It's called pattern interrupt, because what happens is in our life, we get in these patterns, and they're comfortable. It's comfortable to sit here and have a fight in my brain because maybe it makes me feel better about myself. Well, I have this argument, and at the end, I'm like, I feel a little bit better about myself. Or maybe it is a distraction of something else. Or maybe it's an excuse to drink, right? And we got to focus and be like, well, what am I using this for, and how can I feel better without it? Let's go ahead and dive into some of these comments, if there's any that stick out to you there, Terry.
Well, Ano says, like the title of the video, rehab meetings and therapists haven't gotten to the root of my addiction, but Marcus is a genius. You helped me stay sober for 2 weeks now. Yeah, Marcus is a pretty smart guy, isn't he? But, I would caution you in putting all of your eggs in one basket. And as far as rehabs and meetings and therapists, you just got to try to be open-minded. Take what you can out of there. Leave the rest behind. Yeah, meetings sometimes piss me off. Sometimes, oh, geez, this person's sharing again. They share every time. They don't talk about anything. I let it go. I actually try to listen to what they do have to offer, and usually I can get something out of what they're talking about. Therapists, I've tried the therapist years back, and when I didn't tell them the truth, so they didn't do me any good because I wasn't telling the truth. I mean, it was as simple as that. I think if you're completely honest with yourself and with them, maybe they can help. But I try to take a little bit out of everything I do for sobriety. Open-mindedness. Keep listening to what people that are supposed to know what they're talking about are talking about.
Yeah.
That seems to help me the most.
Yeah, and looking at the root, you got to really look at it and focus. And if I seem smart to you, it's because I use those tools. I went to rehab, I went to meetings, and I went to therapists. And like Terry said, when I went to therapy in a dream world, because alcohol made me live in a dream world where everything was against me, and I was like crazy, literally made me crazy. And so I'm not going to get much out of that. Because if I start from a place of crazy and try to have her fix something that's chemically altered, it's not going to work that well. I've found that as I've gotten sober, I'm like, wow, these therapists are geniuses. right? And they were probably geniuses all along. I was probably the moron, right? And so we look at this and it's like, hey, we are learning from everything. And the key is to be like your own person and say, I'm going to get things that I need from certain areas. You guys will see, like on the channel, we talk about NLP, we talk about therapy, we talk about AA, we talk about unconventional stuff, and we talk about things that we've built and we've put together different things that work for us, because there's certain things that work for me that might not work for you. You might be like, Marcus, I don't have a battle in my head. I mean, what are you talking about? You're crazy, right? And you might say, well, I just drink because I like to drink. And I don't know what your problem is. I just want to stop drinking, bro. Um, and to those people, I'd say, well, what I've learned from that kind of stuff is make a plan. What are you going to do to not drink? What are you going to do? Because right now you're automatic. You're automatic. And you're going to be automatic unless you have a plan, right? So I'm going to go and I'll be like, man, why did I drink again? I didn't even plan on it. Well, what was your plan? Well, I didn't have a plan. Well, then you planned on drinking. Because if you don't have a plan against it, you have a plan for it. And so we have to go out there and say, well, what am I going to do instead? Maybe I'm not going to go to the bar for a year. Maybe I'm not going to buy alcohol for a year. Maybe I'm going to say alcohol is not an option for 365 days. Not an option. Well, what about the wedding? I mean, come on. Nope, off the table. 1 year. That's my plan. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stick to it come hell or high water. Even if my ass falls off, I'm not going to drink. Right? Maybe you need something like that, and you need to follow and focus through. Maybe you're the type who does need therapy. Maybe there are some unrooted things that you're having trouble looking at. And I think that a lot of people who go to therapy, they focus on fixing themselves or fixing the issue rather than changing perspective. What is therapy about? It's about changing a perspective. All right? They don't fix anything in you. You come in there, and when you're better, you leave, and nothing changed, right? Like the people who abused you aren't like suddenly nice, and your house didn't suddenly be made out of gold and all your bills paid. No, what happened is you changed your perspective. And when you change your perspective, you could start to get sober, because a perspective that sucks is a perspective you drink over. And my perspective used to suck. Life was against me. I didn't have enough. Everything was bad. Oh, woe is me. And that was my perspective. And then it changed. And now I don't have to drink about my perspective. And when the old perspective creeps in, I say, get the hell out of here. I don't need you anymore. Words, 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 words. Go away. Right? So, very important.
Yes. Let's see. RVADAR. It's good to see you. In your third year sober with only a couple of slips. I really enjoy these streams. Hey, thanks so much. And good to see you, J. Crew from Easter Island. Awesome. Put the shovel down. As an addiction therapist, I 100% agree with what you're saying about the problem with therapy with some inactive addiction. Of course. Yeah, definitely. And I talk to so many people that are recovering, and that's exactly what they say. That when they were drinking and using, that's all they did was lie. And now they try to be more honest. And it's not, we're not perfect, but they do the best they can. And a lot of people that I see in meetings, they do use therapists as well, and to help them with their addiction, help them with some other problems that they may have. And it can be a very effective tool. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see, who else we got here? I had a year and then drank and it went down again. Okay. I would look at what happened. What was it that made it go down again, and how can I plan on that in the future? Because it's always about progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
Like, far too many of us are like, I'm going to be sober and I'm going to be sober for the rest of my life. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I've been sober 5.5 years, and some things have happened in my life that I'm a little surprised I didn't drink over. If they got worse, maybe I would drink over them. I don't know. Maybe I believe that there is a situation in life that everyone who's listening that's sober, it can make you drink. Like, there's a certain set of buttons that'll be like, beep, boop, boop. These things happen in Terry's life. He's out. There's certain things we are not prepared for that we don't know how. And I think that's what happens. And we try to get as prepared as we can. And sometimes we surprise ourselves. Like, I'll be like, wow, this has been a shitty year. And I normally would have drank like January 1st of this kind of year. But hey, here I am. It's November 21 and I'm still doing all right. So surprise yourself and build. And when you have a relapse, if you do have a relapse, look at it and say, well, what tool did I not have? What was it? Well, mom called and this happened, and then I just ended up at the bar. Okay, well, let's start with mom called. What's a new tool you're going to have when mom calls, right? What are you going to do? And you start to focus on those.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, earlier this way corrupt, I wanted to just talk about this one. Just this way corrupt broke my ankle drunk, trying to take off my shoes and couldn't cope with the idea that it was my fault. The most perfect person in the world, me. So naturally, I transferred the blame to my girlfriend. Yeah, and that's awesome that you're admitting that. That's a good step in the right direction. And yeah, I blamed everything on everybody else. We've been talking about that for webinars and even today a lot. So good job. Ty, congratulations on 276 days. And you said alcohol with me started as not only a coping thing, but was also used to be a way to be sociable because I'm naturally a quiet person who still observes everyone from past childhood trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And me too. I thought that it would. I'm naturally a quiet person as well, and I like to sit and observe. And I remember those kegger parties in high school, and I couldn't stand them. I hated that small talk, standing around drinking beer, and alcohol seemed to help it a little bit, but in the long run, no, not at all. And actually, I'm much more outgoing sober than I was when I was drinking. Because when I was drinking, I didn't want anybody to know I was drunk, and so that was taking up all my time in my brain, and all the space was taken up by me trying to hide that.
And it's surprising how much mental energy it takes to not stand sideways when you're drunk. And you think you're standing
Yeah,
straight, and people are like, you got one shoe on or something? What the hell's the matter with you? Right? And it's like, it's mentally exhausting, and it's crazy because we spend so much time on our addiction, it's not even funny.
yeah,
Time is just the monster that, or addiction's the monster that eats your time. And then when you get sober, you're like, holy shit, I got all this time on my hand. What am I going to do? And that's something you got to work out because a lot of people, they get sober and they're like, I got all this time on my hand. Let's go to the bar and we'll just talk to people. That's what we're doing. We're just going to talk to people at the bar because I'm a little lonely with all this time on my hand. Pretty soon you see yourself with a bottle and it's like, well, what was my plan? I didn't have a plan. Terry's got a plan. He says, I go to the bar. I know exactly what I'm going to order. Right? And he doesn't go to the bar just for the bar. He goes there, maybe, the restaurant's full or something, which is another plan. Same with me. I'm like, I go to the bar. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to get a bubbly water. And you know what's cool about it? When you don't get alcoholic drinks, so many bartenders never charge me. They're like, dude, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, don't worry about it. So I save like thousands and thousands of dollars on that. But it's pretty cool, right? And it's like, hey, I don't got to worry
yeah.
about it anymore, right? Because I have a plan. And that's the big key. And that's what I want you guys to take into this Thanksgiving holiday, which we will have another stream. Are we going to be here Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I can be here.
Okay,
Absolutely.
cool. Will you guys be here? Cool. Um, so one of the things you got to do is have a plan. What am I going to do on Thanksgiving? Right? Like automatically you're going to be like, okay, walk in, sit on the couch, get a beer or whatever they drink. Or have wine. You got to have wine with turkey. I mean, it doesn't even count if you don't have wine. These are the kind of things that we think as alcoholics, but Thanksgiving counted for 18, 21 years till you started drinking anyway. What is that all erased? It's all bullshit stuff we make up. So what are you going to have? What's your plan going to be?
Yeah.
Maybe take a sober friend to your Thanksgiving. Maybe tell everyone, hey, I'm sober. I'm not drinking. Oh, what happened? None of your business. I'm just not drinking. Well, why not, bro? Dude, we always pound them at things. Not this year. I'm good, right? Get a plan in place and say, what am I going to do? What are you going to do? This was a big one for me. What am I going to do when the family argument comes up that I used to drink about? Because it's going to come up. That's why I have Thanksgiving alone, right? We don't argue about nothing here. We just have fun with the kids and watch movies and chill out. And the food's better at home anyway. Not saying anything about my family's food, but I kind of am, right?
Off the internet.
Yeah, we grew up with like canned stuff. Like something about like the South. Some people think that cooking is putting boxes and cans together, and I'm like, that ain't cooking. No, cooking is like ingredients. that aren't already made. But at any rate, I digress. But what are you going to do when you see that person who's uncomfortable to see? What are you going to
Yeah.
do when that topic comes up? It's an election year, so everyone's going to be talking about their political stuff. And I know a lot of people get triggered when I talk about political stuff on here, which I don't mind because I think it shows our minds how easy it is to get triggered by something. Like, what do you care about some guy on YouTube on a recovery channel and his politics? What do you really care? I mean, really, when all comes down to it, all of our votes are equal. But anyway, I digress. I'm going into tangents, so Terry,
Well, let me
save me here.
take you back.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a plan for the holidays, and that's important. And for me, I already know what I'm doing on Thanksgiving, and I'm fortunate. I don't have a drinking family, and a lot of people aren't that fortunate. They're trying to get sober or stay sober, and their family, that Thanksgiving is just a giant drunk fest. And at least a lot of or part of the day, I'm gonna go hang out with sober alcoholics. And fortunately, our fellowship here has an alcathon where it's like just 7 hours of fellowshipping and meetings and stuff. And me being a professional chef, I'm gonna do the cooking for it. So I go there and cook, and then, but also at the same time, it's important. Family is important too. So I make sure I have a lot of help there because we all want to stay sober. So most of us realize that get having a part of Thanksgiving, at least a couple hours, where we can be with other sober people and bounce off of each other the frustrations from the drinking relative or whatever. Um, that's helpful for our sobriety, and then we can go and just be sober, be safe, and that'll be Christmas and New Year's too. That's what I do. Been doing it since the first year I got sober, and it helps a lot. Just, but then, Thanksgiving for me, it's just another day. That's the kind of thing I do every day, is just something sober. One other thing I wanted to touch on was quit drinking alcohol on your own. And I used to, you get to about this time of year when I was drinking, be like, I can't quit drinking now. Thanksgiving's coming up. I'll miss all the Christmas parties. And then Christmas and New Year's. I can't give up till after that. I'll quit after that, maybe January 1st. Then January 1st comes. Oh man, the football playoffs. Super Bowl's coming up. I can't quit now. I just keep pushing it back and back. And, I just kind of got to look at it. It's alcohol problem now. There's never going to be a convenient time. There's always a reason to keep drinking. At least there was for me.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it brings it into what Kelly says. Kelly says, Thanksgiving's coming up. I've always been the drunk uncle or brother-in-law, only 3 weeks sober. Any suggestions? That's an interesting one because I think a lot of people misjudge the fact that alcohol becomes part of our personality and part of the way that we see ourselves in the world. Like, what am I going to be if I'm not the drunk uncle? Like, what am I, like for me, I would drink and I'd play with my kids and we'd have a great time. And, that was kind of the identity because it was like either work Marcus or play Marcus. And I couldn't play unless I drank. And so I drank so that I could play and have a good time. And I remember sometimes I had a great time. And it's funny because when I'm sober, I have way, way, way better times than I actually remember them, which is good. But we got to look at that and kind of separate it from our identity, which is a very difficult thing to do because it comes enmeshed. And you're like, well, I'm the drunk guy. That's who I am. Like, what if I'm not the drunk uncle? Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to be funny? Are people not going to talk to me? Right? Or like he says also, I don't want the extra attention and like people saying I'm so proud of you. And that could be annoying.
Yeah.
Like there's people in my family that tell me they're proud of me for being sober, and I just want to be like, yeah, f you very much, because it doesn't mean anything from them, and I think the key is just say thank you. I'm proud of you.
Exactly.
Thanks. That's cool, you know. And don't go into anything else, and maybe allow yourself to feel it. Maybe sometimes you're afraid of feeling that people are proud of you, or maybe sometimes you just don't want the attention. And if you
Yeah.
don't, that's cool. Like my favorite place at Thanksgiving is the kids' table. There's better conversations. There's more fun there anyway. And If you guys have ever met me in person, the kids are my height. That's always good too. Um, but we got to look at that and we got to be like, hey, you know what? My identity isn't this anymore. And it doesn't matter who says they're proud of me or whatever. And I don't owe an explanation. Hey, why'd you quit drinking? I just did. I felt like it was time. Oh, hey, you're not drunk this year. We're so proud of you. Okay, thank you. That's cool. Where's the turkey? Have a follow up question. Follow up questions are great because they're like, oh man, this is great. This is awesome. Blah blah blah. Hey, who made the cranberry sauce this week? Oh, that must have been Jane. Bam, attention's off of you. But don't let your identity get wrapped into it because you could just really focus. Megan's got a good suggestion if you want to
Absolutely.
bring that one up.
Yeah, Megan, yeah, I would suggest for anyone new sobriety having an escape plan on Thanksgiving. Plan to not stay very long if people are drinking, and bring your own drinks, soda, seltzer water. Absolutely, Megan. That's something I do as well. I used to on Thanksgiving go to these people's house that live, I don't know, 2 miles from me, and that was just a drinking fest. And when I got sober, I kept going for a couple more years, and that was it. I'd get there, I'd be one of the first people there. Yeah, it starts at 3. Okay, I'd show up at 3, and then right after dinner, I'm out of there. And
Yeah.
I was polite, and actually, I was fortunate that the people hosting it knew that I'm sober, and they've been dealing with a sober son as well. So they know that that's what we have to do. And then bringing your own drink, definitely bring something that you like. If you're if you don't want to insult them or whatever, what I usually do is I bring something and I leave it in the car and just see what they have. And if they have nothing, I just mention to them, hey, you don't really have anything that I can have because I'm not drinking right now, and I have something in my car. Do you mind if I bring it in? Just that simple. I don't make a big deal out of it, and that
Mm-hmm.
works. The game plan, the escape plan. So once again, that means maybe bring your own car, or have your public transportation figured out, whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
And oh, back up there, Donna. You can watch the replay of this. You just said you got here late, so no problem. Welcome.
Good to have you here.
Yeah.
All right. Any other standing out? Also, for those that are new, we do have a Facebook group that you can join. I believe, did I paste it in here? Yeah. So I'll put it in the chat box here so you guys can get that. Also, we have on talksober.com, there's a little button where you can help support the channel. Our goal for the upcoming year, though we have been procrastinating on it, is to create a sober resource. So if you do want to stop drinking on your own, the resources will be there. Again, that's not to say don't detox, that you should detox on your own, because you shouldn't always go to a doctor to detox. But if you want a plan, if you want to learn the things that happen in the Talk Sober support group, where you can go to talksober.com, click on support the group, we have PDFs. I have some notes that I had from rehab. We go through what happens in your brain, how to heal past stuff, how to deal with all kinds of things. You also get some MP3s of the live talks, so you could take them and listen to them while you're, on the go, and some PDF notes and things like that. So if you do want to support the channel, help us out here, and help spread the message, because that's the key. And there's a lot of people from now till about January 10th that are going to be looking to stop drinking that don't know how, and we want to reach them. Right, from the guy who's like, hey, I just want to have a sober mission to accomplish, but doesn't realize he's an alcoholic, to the guy who's like, yeah, I know I'm an alcoholic and I don't know what to do. We want to reach everyone. And for I think it's less than the cost of a cheap beer a day, you could support what we're doing here and help us out. That's over at talksober.com. Just click on support the channel or something like that, right? I think that's what the button says. Let's see here. Any other standing out before we head out?
No, well, neighbor 818, yeah, I was drunk in all my pictures too. I think any of us were, yes. But that's it. Quitting drinking alcohol on your own. Yeah, I quit drinking on my own, as far as it was my responsibility and my sobriety is my responsibility. But quitting drinking on my own was asking for help from others and taking the help. That was my part in it, where I had to take responsibility and do what I needed to do to get sober. And it was through a lot of help.
Yeah, and I think that we don't want to downplay help, because if you need help, get it. And I think, like, we all need help. Even the guy who's like, I quit on my own. Well, yeah, with the advice and the tips and the learning that came from thousands of years of alcoholics before you. It wasn't like you invented some fancy system that no one knew about, right? Like, I think it was in the Bible, it says there's nothing new under the sun. There ain't nothing new under the sun, right? You just got to look at what has worked and who has the result you want and go get it and say, boom, I'm going to go get it.
Right on. Thank you,
Cool.
everybody.
Thanks for joining. We'll see you next week. We will be here on Thanksgiving, 11 a.m. To 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then you can go have your turkey. Hopefully we'll give you like a nice charge so you don't have to drink if you're worried about that. And we'll fix you up. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you next week. Check out the group over at facebook.com/groups/talksober. That is in the chat box. And then you can also go to talksober.com and help support the channel and spread the message. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.